Welcome to this lesson where I'm going to introduce the theory and architecture of CloudWatch logs. I've already covered the metrics side of CloudWatch earlier in the course, and I'm covering the logs part now because you'll be using it when we cover CloudTrail. So in the CloudTrail demo, we'll be setting up CloudTrail and using CloudWatch logs as a destination for those logs. So you'll need to understand it, and so we'll be covering the architecture in this lesson. So let's jump in and get started. CloudWatch Logs is a public service. The endpoint which applications connect to is hosted in the AWS public zone, which means you can use the product within AWS VPCs or from on-premises environments and even other cloud platforms, assuming that you have network connectivity as well as AWS permissions. The CloudWatch Logs product allows you to store, monitor, and access logging data. Logging data at a very basic level is a piece of information data and a timestamp. So the timestamp is generally year, month, day, hour, minute, second, and time zone. Now there can be more fields, but at a minimum it's generally a timestamp and some data. Now CloudWatch Logs has some built-in integrations with many AWS services. These include EC2, VPC Flow Logs, Lambda, CloudTrail, Route 53, and many more. Any services which integrate with CloudWatch Logs can store data directly inside the product, and the security for this is generally provided by using IAM roles or service roles. For anything outside AWS or for logging custom application or OS logs on EC2, for example, you can use the unified CloudWatch agent. Now I've mentioned this before and I'll be demoing it later in the EC2 section of the course, but this is how anything outside of AWS products and services can log data into CloudWatch Logs. So it's either AWS services which can log into CloudWatch directly, or you use the unified CloudWatch agent, and that's how you integrate. There is a third way in which you can use the development kits for AWS and implement logging into CloudWatch Logs directly into your application, but that tends to be something that we'll cover in the developer and the DevOps AWS courses. For now, just remember either AWS service integrations or the unified CloudWatch agent. Now, CloudWatch Logs are also capable of taking logging data and generating a metric from it, and this is known as a metric filter. Imagine a situation where you have a Linux instance and one of the operating system log files logs any failed connection attempts via SSH. If this logging information was injected into CloudWatch Logs, then a metric filter can scan those logs constantly, and anytime it sees a mention of a failed SSH connection, it can increment a metric within CloudWatch. And on that you can have alarms which can do things based on that metric, and I'll be demoing that very thing later in the course. Now let's look at the architecture visually, because I'll be showing you how this works in practice in the CloudTrail demo, which will be coming up later in this section. Architecturally, CloudWatch Logs looks like this. First, it's a regional service, so let's assume for this example we're talking about US East 1. Now the starting point are our logging sources, which can include AWS products and services, mobile or server-based applications, external compute services, so virtual or physical servers, databases, or even external APIs. And these sources inject data into CloudWatch Logs as log events. Now log events look like this. They have a timestamp and a message block. CloudWatch Logs treats this message as a raw block of data, so it can be anything you want, but there are ways that the data can be interpreted and fields and columns defined. Log events are stored inside log streams. And log streams are essentially a sequence of log events from the same source. So let's say that you had one log file that was stored on multiple EC2 instances that you wanted to inject into CloudWatch Logs. So for example, var log messages, which stores system diagnostics under Linux. Well, each log stream would represent var log messages for one instance. So you'd have one log stream for instance 1 for var log messages and one log stream for instance 2 for var log messages. So each log stream is an ordered set of log events for a specific source for a specific thing. Now we also have log groups, And log groups are containers for multiple log streams for the same type of logging. So continuing the varlog messages example, we would have one log group containing everything for varlog messages. So we'd set this for varlog messages. And then inside this log group would be lots of different log streams, and each log stream would represent one source, so one EC2 instance where we were receiving data for varlog messages. Each log stream would then be a collection of log events. So every time an item was added to varlog messages on a single EC2 instance, there would be one log event inside one log stream for that EC2 instance. Now, a log group is also the place that stores configuration settings. So it's on the log group where we define things like retention settings and permissions. And when we define these settings on a log group, they obviously apply to all log streams inside that log group. It's also on log groups where metric filters are defined. So these metric filters are constantly reviewing any log events for any log streams in that log group, looking for certain patterns, maybe an application error code or a failed SSH login. When detected, these metric filters increment a metric, and metrics can have associated alarms, and these alarms can be used either to notify administrators or to integrate with AWS or external systems to take action. So CloudWatch Logs is a really powerful product. This is the high-level architecture, but don't worry, you'll get plenty of exposure to it all the way through this course because lots of AWS products integrate with CloudWatch Logs and use it to store their logging data. So we'll be coming back to this product time and time again as we go through the course. CloudTrail uses CloudWatch Logs, Lambda uses CloudWatch Logs, VPC Flow Logs use CloudWatch Logs. There's lots of examples of AWS products where we'll be integrating them with CloudWatch Logs, so I just wanted to introduce it at this early stage of the course. But that's everything I wanted to cover in this theory lesson, so thanks for watching. Go ahead, complete this video, and when you're ready, join me in the next.